let's talk more about these Pentagon leaks, right? They found who leaked them. Here's the footage of the guy being arrested. His name is Jack Teixeira. So, I mean, at first glance, you might be thinking that the army arrested him, right? That was certainly my impression for a second. But the police in the United States is so militarized. It's actually the FBI. This is from CNN, okay? Let's watch it and I'll comment as we go along.
21-year-old Airman Jack Teixeira had his initial court appearance in Boston earlier today. He faces 2 charges, including a violation of the Espionage Act after he allegedly leaked troves of U.S. secrets, and apparently to impress his friends online. Let's get right to CNN's chief law enforcement and intelligence analyst, John Miller. John, how did the Massachusetts National Guard have access to this wealth of top secret information?
It's because of the mission. That 102nd Intelligence Wing is basically the base where they fly drones from that are doing intelligence, reconnaissance, surveillance, supporting warfighters, special operators in places overseas, targeting terrorists. So almost every
targeting terrorists, including people at weddings and funerals. Remember those bad guys.
Everything they do in those rooms is classified. If you're working there, you have a secret clearance or a top secret clearance.
And you also have new information on how this case came together and how they ultimately identified Jack Teixeira, law enforcement.
So the big break came Sunday going into Monday. Monday, the FBI goes to the home of an 18-year-old kid in California, and he doesn't want to talk. They talk to the kid's mother, they get a lawyer, they sit down together, and this kid, we'll call him Sam, not his name, agrees to sit down, and he says,
Right, so he's describing he's describing how one of the people in this group, not Jack Teixeira, but one of the people in the group, helped to rat the guy out. Now remember, this is after the New York Times and Belen Pussy had already helped the FBI narrow down the search, right? I mean, there were I read the affidavit, right? I think they have 5 pictures or something like that. So the New York, he leaves out the whole part that I just told you about the New York Times helping the FBI to narrow the search down to literally a handful of people. I think it's 5 people.
I know Jack. We've done a video chat together. He explained to me that he was getting nervous about copying classified documents over at work so he could post them. So essentially, he just started bringing the documents home. That leads to yesterday when the FBI comes back after getting the billing address for the server and the address that matches Jack Teixeira's, and they say in a photo array of 5 people, which one of these is the person you know as Jack? He picks out Teixeira. That gave them probable cause to make that arrest, which was coming at a time when others, including the press, were closing in.
All right, fascinating stuff. John Miller, thanks.
Closing in. You're so modest. You're so modest. Oh, that's not like you. Closing in. Jesus. I mean, he makes it sound like, I mean, closing in is already bad enough. Like I told you, why would they be? They were physically there, man. Like the New York Times reporters were physically like hounds, literally closing in with the FBI. I mean, that really tells you everything you need to know. But the fact that they had helped and given all of this to the law enforcement is so bad and so treacherous. I mean, that should be the main story, really, if you ask me. That is the main story. This is almost as important as the actual documents. But let's keep going.
Thanks so much. Joining us now to discuss the former defense secretary under President Trump, Mark Esper. Secretary Esper, I want to get your thoughts on how Russia is framing this leak and Jack Teixeira on state-run television. They played a clip from Fox in which he played a clip, the host, from CNN. Take a listen.
Are they going to turn him into a mini Trump? During his show on Fox News, Tucker Carlson is showing and quoting the CNN reporting. He busts out into a big speech about what happened. He says mainstream media is turning Teixeira into the worst traitor. For what? Carlson says it's because the guy told the truth about
Jesus
what
Christ.
is happening in Ukraine.
Okay, hold on.
Where they are sending money.
God, this is such a this is Inception. This is CNN showing you a clip of Russian state media, showing a clip of Fox, showing a clip of CNN. I'll cut it short for you. I'll spare you the nonsense. They were basically saying that Tucker Carlson and Marjorie, whatever, are hailing this guy as a hero. Now remember, why and the Russians as well, right? So they're trying to inject this garbage about how the Russians support Trump, and they also support Teixeira because he's leaked documents, and he was acting against the state and the interests of the authoritarian state, which makes him a bad person, right? Teixeira, right? So that's their whole framing here. That's what's going on.
Well, Jack, Jake, I couldn't see the clip that you showed, and it's hard to follow. But look, the bottom line is this young airman broke the law, apparently, and under the Espionage Act, and it's very serious because he released highly classified information that was detrimental and has caused harm to the United States of America and to our allies, and that's the bottom line. And look, he'll have his chance.
So look, remember how clear and black and white his language is. He's saying this young man broke the law. All right? That's it. Remember that in a minute. And when he says it's done harm to the United States, it hasn't done harm. It's embarrassed you because you've been caught spying on Zelensky. I mean, the guy had to know, honestly. And the South Koreans and the Israelis, they also, should have known. But yeah.
In court to defend himself, and he needs to be he's innocent till proven guilty. But clearly this was a major problem, and I applaud the FBI for rolling it up quickly. Now we need to get to the bottom of it.
I applaud the FBI. God, man, these guys are just like, they're goddamn slobbering and salivating at every mention of authoritarianism. I applaud the FBI. Yes, master. I applaud the FBI. How is this not state media? This clip from CNN. How can you listen to this and tell me that this is not state media? That this is objective journalism? Now, again, you can tell me that it's just Mark Esper and he's coming on as a guest or whatever. Fine, but the thing is, the rest of the anchors and the hosts, they speak like him. They say the same goddamn things. So how do you explain that away? How do you reconcile, how do you reconcile being objective and having a duty to the public and to the truth with salivating over law enforcement and at every single turn making it look like the state is correct and anybody who dissents is evil and should be thrown in prison and silenced and all this stuff? I applaud the FBI. Okay, they didn't catch a serial killer. They were helped by the New York Times. I'm sick of repeating myself. It's scandalous.
And find out, was there anybody else involved, and how did he do it, and all those things necessary to kind of plug the gaps and fix the problems. But that's how I see it. So
there's obviously a group of Republicans, conservatives, MAGA folk who are siding with Teixeira, a top ally of Trump and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene wrote on Twitter, quote, Jake, it's Jack actually, but I guess that's a mistake that a couple people have made. Jack Teixeira is white, male, Christian, and anti-war. That makes him an enemy to the Biden regime. And Teixeira
he's anti-war, so he joined the U.S. military, which is, in like 50 different wars. Okay.
Told the truth about troops being on the ground in Ukraine and a lot more. Ask yourself, who is the real enemy? A young, low-level National Guardsman or the administration that is waging war in Ukraine, a non-NATO nation against nuclear Russia?
Okay, look, let him speak and I'll butt in.
Without war powers. Now, to be clear, the only U.S. troops that are in Ukraine are guarding the U.S. embassy. But
dude, have you not read the documents? When I heard this, the documents literally say that you have special forces from the United Kingdom and the United States and so on. It's in the documents. What do you mean the only troops, U.S. troops in Ukraine are guarding the embassy? Are you, Jesus Christ, I have never heard something so stupid. Use your fucking brain, man. You have special forces crawling around Ukraine just like they were crawling around Syria. How can you say this? Come on, man. I don't want to pick on Jake Tapper, but man, he has got to know better. You have to know better than this. How can you say something so naive? And the documents are literally talking about all these foreign NATO troops that you have there. Come on, man. And another thing I want to say, she's a member of Congress, right? So the only point that I would give to her is that Congress, there was a big fight about this, and there still is, about who has the real power to wage war. Is it the president, right? So the executive, or is it Congress, and is it with the judiciary? Now, with the legislative. So, Nixon was going behind Congress' back and bombing Cambodia and bombing Laos, and because of that, they implemented the 1973 War Powers Resolution, right? So that was an attempt to rein in the president's powers so that Congress has more oversight, right? That has obviously been long forgotten because, the president can do whatever he wants. And most people in Congress, they're pro-war. So they don't even care about reining him in. That's not a thing. Maybe she cares about that. I have no clue if her intentions are true or not. I'm not trying to defend her. But my point here is that as a member of Congress, she should be in the know regarding these matters. Do you know what I mean? So she shouldn't find out that there are U.S. troops or special forces crawling around Ukraine because some 21-year-old posted the documents online. She should know that because she's a member of Congress, right? She should know that because she has a duty of congressional oversight. Now, I'm talking about a perfect utopian system, which of course does not exist, as I just pointed out. But she has a point with that. Now, the rest of it, I don't think the guy's particularly a hero. Again, his friends said precisely he's not a whistleblower and so on. So I don't. There's only so much you can glorify. And again, I mean, me as a journalist and someone who follows politics, I'm very happy to see this because you want to know what's going on. But again, the information is becoming outdated. It's already over a month old. And so on. But, I'm not saying that he's a traitor, and I'm not saying he's a hero. I don't care, frankly. I'm just saying the scandal here is the media, these people at the New York Times, doing law enforcement work for the FBI and helping the state. That is there's nothing more scandalous than that. Nothing.
Clear Russia without war powers. Now, to be clear, the only U.S. troops that are in Ukraine are guarding the U.S. embassy. But does it concern you how quickly Republicans, and look, Marjorie Taylor Greene, she might have fringe views, but she has direct access to Trump, direct access to Kevin McCarthy. They're coming to...
What does that mean, direct access to Trump, man? Screw Trump. Screw this guy. Why do you keep talking about this guy? Who cares about him, man? What does that have to do with the Teixeira dude?
This guy's defense.
Yeah, look, this issue should not be politicized. In my view, it's a clear black and white issue with regard to the law being broken. If there are issues that some in Congress are alleging they were not informed about, then that's the role of...
You see how he said it's a clear black and white issue. The law was broken. He shouldn't have leaked the documents. Okay, fine. The law is clear about that. I'll give you that. He's in the army and so on, blah, blah, blah. But the law is also clear about congressional oversight. So you see how he says it's unacceptable for him to give out the documents, but then when it comes to people in Congress actually knowing what's happening and having oversight on the president and his war powers, he makes it seem like it's, he basically puts it on the back burner. It doesn't really matter to him.
Congressional oversight of the executive branch to call them up and find out what was going on. But look, I think the vast majority, most
call them up and find out what was going on. Remember, man, this guy was Trump's defense secretary, right? So he was doing Lloyd Austin's job, yeah. So the reason he's so upset is because Teixeira leaked documents from the military, and this guy's the former defense secretary, so obviously that's going to upset him a lot. But then he makes congressional oversight. It's like, no, they should call him up. What do you mean call him up? You're supposed to call them up. It's literally in the War Powers Resolution. Every time you do something, you got to tell Congress. You have like 48 hours or something. It's true.
Republicans and Democrats would agree with what I'm saying with regard to this being a case of espionage that will go through the court process, legal process, and it will land where it lands. I think the important thing is right now is to find out the scope of the problem, what he released, did he have others working for him, and how do we close up these holes in our classification system and limit access to people who clearly don't need it.
So obviously the administration, the Biden administration, is involved in a lot of damage control right now. The classified documents, as you know, revealed key information about Ukraine, revealed U.S. recruitment tactics for CIA operatives. The document showed how deep the U.S. had infiltrated Russia's Wagner mercenary group, and shows the advanced weaponry China's been developing. Which of all of that bothers you most? Which of all of that disclosure keeps you up at night?
Oh, man. Which disclosure keeps you up at night? Why can't you sleep, Mr. Esper? None of this keeps me up at night, man. Why do you sound like a goddamn CIA officer? What's wrong with you? Look, he's gonna cry, man. Look at Jake. He's about to cry.
Yeah, look, there's that and more, and it's clearly.
Let me get your tissue, buddy. Look at him. He's so concerned. He can't take it anymore. Oh, man, these guys are funny. They're really funny. They're really, really funny. And, one more thing I wanted to add to my previous point is that the United States is not formally at war with Ukraine and not formally at war with Russia, and Ukraine is not a NATO member. So, when you send special forces in there, that's not military aid. I mean, it is a form of assistance. But when I say, you send special forces in, and you have, you remember there was a French journalist who went to Ukraine, and he came back and said that there was an American running the quote unquote volunteer program. So you have U.S. military personnel in Ukraine. Those are not M16s, right? Or artillery shells. They're actual soldiers, U.S. soldiers running around Ukraine. Where is the congressional oversight? None, because Congress doesn't give a shit. They don't. Of course, they don't care. But again, just notice how they all also about democracy checks and balances, and actually it's all one big authoritarian machine.